And now that we've talked about this, I'll just pull up the TSN and just let everyone know where everyone is standing in the playoffs, because everyone's probably wondering that. So New York and Pittsburgh, series is tied 1-1.
After a big win tonight for the New York Islanders.
It was, huge.
It was a
I just saw the scores were mixed up. It was like 5-4, but he said, but that doesn't matter. Ottawa and Montreal, series is tied 1-1 after another big game for Montreal.
And again, like Montreal was without Brian Gionta, Max Pacioretty, Lars Eller after that huge hit, which we'll talk about later on. But I thought going into that game Montreal would be done. Came out, they played well. Carey Price was awesome, like he should be.
Even though he lost a tooth.
He lost a tooth.
Got to give props to that guy.
Here's the thing. In order to win that series, it's going to be the goaltender with the least amount of teeth. Because Craig Anderson lost a tooth in Game 1.
Did he?
Yes, he lost a tooth in Game 1. And in Game 2, Carey Price loses a tooth. So it's going to be whoever's toothless after this series, and that's who's going to win the cup.
All right. So then it's New York and Washington, and it's 1-0 Washington.
Yeah, Alex Ovechkin, his same old self in Game 1, got a goal. I believe he got an assist as well. Rangers got to be better.
Yeah. Toronto-Boston. Boston leads 1-0 after the series.
After one game, 4-1 was the score in that one. I watched that game from the first 5 minutes on. Toronto was doing really well. After that, no.
Yeah.
Boston was absolutely dominant. Maple Leafs didn't have an answer. Kadri, Kessel, everybody pretty much was just invisible.
Yeah. Western Conference, we're going to go to now Chicago and Minnesota. Chicago's up 2-0.
Yeah, another win for the Chicago Blackhawks. The Wild don't seem to be putting up much of a fight there. Without their starting goaltender, Nicholas Backstrom, they're hoping to get him back some point in this series, but they don't know when. Just Chicago, too good for too long. That's about it. That's all I have to say about that series.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot you can say about that. But Anaheim and Detroit, series is tied 1-1.
Boy, like I said, I think this series is going to go 7 games. It's a very tight series. Detroit's got the experience, and the Ducks have been on fire, since the start of the season pretty much. But who knows? I didn't have the Ducks to get in the playoffs this year, but I have them winning the series, so we'll see what happens.
San Jose and Vancouver. San Jose actually leads Vancouver 2-0, which is surprising.
After a big overtime win, Rafi Torres with the overtime winner. Wow, isn't that irony for Vancouver Canuck fans? They were supporting him throughout the entire Brent Seabrook incident way back in 2011? 2011, that's when it was. And, all of a sudden he gets the overtime winner. San Jose's up 2-0. San Jose's, give credit to Todd McClellan, the head coach of the San Jose Sharks. Didn't really think they were going to have a chance this year, even advancing in this round. I thought he'd be gone after this season. And apparently he's got a little fight left in him. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. And LA and St. Louis, which is surprising for everyone. Nobody's going to probably guess the outcome of these two games, but it's 2-0 St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm not Jonathan Quick's getting a lot of heat on him just because of that one bad goal. It was a bad goal, and he let in another pretty crappy one in Game 2. But I mean, you look at the first two games of last season's Stanley Cup playoffs. He allowed 4 goals on 70 shots. This season, he's allowed 4 goals on 63 shots.
Yeah.
So the difference is LA hasn't been able to score. And that was their problem in the regular season. That was their problem in their last regular season. And they were able to come out of that in the playoffs. And it has yet to happen. If it's going to happen, it better happen soon, because you don't want to get behind 2-0 against the Blues. And that's what they're at right now. So we'll definitely be watching all of those series as they go on. And, throughout the summer, and as this summer drags on, we will definitely have all the NHL playoff coverage that you can ask for.
Just as a couple quick notes before we finish our whole broad NHL thing up, it's actually really interesting because the Eastern Conference is such a widespread level of experience and player intensity and all this great amazing stuff. But if you think about it, you look at the Western Conference, and that's always the same teams in the playoffs.
Well, like, the last couple of years it has been, like Minnesota Wild, I believe, and the Ducks, I guess, are the teams that weren't there last year. Instead, it was the Phoenix Coyotes, and I can't think of the other one off the top of my head right now. I believe it was Stars.
Colorado?
No, Colorado wasn't in last year. It'll come to me at some point.
Yeah, we might
we're gonna have a lot of dead. We're gonna have a lot of dead air.
Team just in the middle of our talk.
We're gonna have a lot of dead air if we do that. But
yeah,
like in the Eastern Conference, I like it because you got the Islanders, you got the Maple Leafs that weren't there last year, you got the Canadiens that came back after a bad year. Senators are still there, but then and the Capitals made it after a long while. So
yeah.
I mean, I would never have picked the Philadelphia Flyers to miss the playoffs.
Yep.
I thought they were going to be shoo-ins. The New Jersey Devils, you could make the argument they were going to make the playoffs. Maybe everybody saw the Florida Panthers missing the playoffs. I don't think a lot of people saw them getting dead last in the NHL.
Yeah.
But that happens. And I thought Carolina was going to have a better season than they did. I thought Carolina and Buffalo would actually have a better season than they actually did.
I was actually expecting Buffalo to have a better season.
Yeah, but and now you
strong players.
Yeah, and now you look at them and you kind of see where they're missing, but the East is definitely a little bit more wide open. The West, it's so tough to get out. Being an Oilers fan, you know how tough it is to get out of that Western Conference.
And
the Oilers were 8th in the beginning of April, and they dropped right out of it by the end of it. So that's how tough.
And you look at teams like Chicago, Detroit, San Jose, Vancouver, and LA. You don't really have to look much further.
Nashville, that was the other team.
That's what it was. Other than those 5 teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Other than those 5 teams, though, you basically have 3 spots that are open.
Yeah.
That you aren't which is basically a wild, you have 3 wild card teams in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
Unless there's big changes in these franchises, these teams are going to be hitting the playoffs until some of these very skilled teams are going to be doing a little bit of trading, seeing if they can, with their salary cap, if they can change that a little bit, or if they're just going to try and experiment and try some of these new higher level players. But you don't really have a whole lot of difference. It's always the same teams, and it's kind of even though it's good that we still have NHL here in the West, because we have nothing else until CFL starts, but it just kind of gets boring and tiring after watching the same team always make the playoffs, right?
Yeah, no, it does. I think the worst thing that could have happened in the NHL back in 2009 was you have Detroit and Pittsburgh meet in the Stanley Cup Final again.
Yeah.
As much as I like to see the Pittsburgh Penguins win the Cup, and they did, I still would have wished, somebody else would have been given a chance, But I mean, that's the NHL for you. It's so different every year that you just don't know what's going to happen. And right now, the East is a bit more open. I wouldn't say it's more competitive, but it's a bit more open than the Western Conference. The Western Conference maybe is a bit more competitive, with everybody kind of being around the same competitiveness. And the margin of error is so small that's where a lot of teams like the Oilers and this year the Columbus Blue Jackets, that margin of error, they had the same number of points as the Minnesota Wild, but they won too many games in the shootout and that's what cost them. And that's just what happens. So I think we're going to take a little break. We'll be right back we'll do the Oilers in another segment.
Sounds.
And I think that's what we'll do. We'll talk about the Oilers, Yak City. How did the Oilers do this season? Obviously not in the playoffs. And what is going to happen with new management? We'll be right back.
Who knows?